When the final whistle sounded after extra time on the 4th of May, everyone was thinking the same thing. What the is going on with Real Madrid? After being 5-3 down on aggregate at 89 minutes in the second leg, they pulled off yet another miraculous comeback to see off Manchester City after equally ridiculous comebacks against PSG and Chelsea in the previous knockout rounds. But how is it possible for a team to be so consistently outplayed, looking down and out, only for them to roar back? If they manage to overcome Liverpool in the final, it will certainly be one of the most remarkable Champions League campaigns in history, but are they even really that good? I'm going to try and make some sense out of the madness. Let's firstly very quickly talk about how their season has gone so far to see how good they've really been, and then briefly break down each of their Champions League knockout games before moving on to the analysis. So in La Liga, Los Blancos recently secured the title by a landslide, with Carlo Ancelotti and his impressively expressive eyebrows becoming the first man to complete the set of all 5 of Europe's top leagues. And although they won it comfortably, it's probably not a campaign that's going to go down in the pantheon of all-time great Spanish champions. As I write this, they're sitting on 85 points with 1 game to go, so assuming they win the last game and go to 88, that is a points tally that would have just barely been enough to win La Liga in the last 3 seasons, but nowhere close to winning the league in any season from 2009 to 2018, where often at least 95 points are needed. In fact, in 7 out of the last 13 seasons, 88 points would not have even been good enough to get second, let alone first. Real have benefited from Barcelona being in a massive period of transition and Atleti having their worst season since Simeone took over 11 years ago. They also exited the Copa del Rey with a whimper, succumbing to a solid but hardly formidable Athletic Club de Bilbao in the quarter-finals. I think that their domestic campaign would suggest that they're a good side, clearly the best in Spain, but probably aren't to the level of competing with the very best sides in the world such as Liverpool and Man City. And yet in the Champions League, they've been doing exactly that. How? Against PSG in the last 16, they were fairly dismal in the away first leg, not threatening offensively at all with 0 shots on goal and their usual key players below par. It's clear that this was the game plan to keep it tight and win it in the home leg, but this seemed to backfire when Kylian Mbappe produced a last minute bit of solo magic to win it 1-0. When Mbappe made it 2-0 on aggregate in the second leg, it seemed over, as Real weren't really causing the Parisian defence many problems, but when Benzema scored 1, what resulted was a total and utter capitulation from the PSG defence, including some truly shocking mistakes from Marquinhos and Donnarumma. Real, and more specifically Benzema, did do very well to take advantage of this and come back, scoring 3 in the last half an hour, but really they only got through here due to individual brilliance from Benzema's hat-trick and PSG's horrific defending. Against Chelsea, Los Blancos played much better. They didn't exactly dominate the early stages at Stamford Bridge, but they weren't totally hopeless like they were at Parc des Princes, and took their chances with ruthless efficiency, Benzema scoring 2 sensational headers in the first half. Kai Havertz got one back, but that man Benzema completed yet another hat-trick to put thoughts of a Chelsea recovery to bed by seizing on a goalkeeping error, and Madrid closed out the game with a 2-goal lead very effectively. However, in the second leg, it looked like they may be getting a taste of their own medicine, as Chelsea deservedly got 3 goals back, requiring a Madrid goal in the last 10 minutes, which they managed thanks to yet more individual magic. And for once, it wasn't Benzema, as Luka Modric played an outrageous outside of the boot ball into substitute Rodrigo, who finished with composure. Going into extra time, with Real's mental fortitude, there would only be one winner. Real made hard work of it, but they squeezed through a tie which could have gone either way, although they played far better than against PSG. The City tie in the semi-final was even madder than the last 2 rounds. City were utterly dominant early, 2-0 up after just 11 minutes, and it looked as though a mauling could have been on the cards. But then Benzema scored out of absolutely nowhere, and suddenly the rest of the team turned up and the game became a glorious end-to-end affair, with both teams playing some great stuff. Vinicius scored a breathtaking solo goal, Benzema displayed nerves of steel by dispatching a Panenka, but Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva's goals ensured that City took a 4-3 lead back to the Bernabeu. At the Bernabeu, it seemed that Real Madrid's luck had finally run out when Riyad Mahrez broke the deadlock, and in the 89th minute, 2 goals were needed to just even force extra time. However, super sub Rodrigo was the hero again. When he scored 1, similar to the Paris game, City's defence fell to pieces and the Brazilian was able to get the aggregate equaliser just a minute later. In extra time, guess who sealed it? Karim Benzema took his knockout stage goal tally to a frankly ludicrous 10, scoring another penalty and taking Madrid to the final. Again, City were probably the better team over the 2 legs, but Real Madrid proved to be so much stronger, so much calmer mentally to prevail and advance to the final. So why are they able to make these incredible comebacks and win games that they really don't deserve to? To answer that, let's look back to when they won their 3 in a row, from 2016 to 2018. I'd say that the last time Real Madrid could have been considered the world's best team was in 2017. Even in 2018, when they won their third Champions League in a row, they were abysmal in the league and benefited from a spectacularly bad goalkeeping performance in the final against Liverpool. But in 16-17, in which they won the league and European Cup double, they were genuinely outstanding. This was when players such as Toni Kroos, Marcelo, Keylor Navas, Isco, Dani Carvajal, Sergio Ramos and Rafael Varane were at their peaks, and of course they also had a certain Portuguese attacker who scored 42 goals in all competitions that year. All of these players though have now departed or declined since 2017. This current Real Madrid still contains 5 first choice players who were first choice back in 2017, as well as many squad players who are still around, but with the exceptions of Modric, Casemiro and Karim Benzema, none of the players still here are as good as they were 5 years ago. Of course there have been some great players signed in that time, such as David Alaba, Eder Militao and Vinicius Jr, but it's hard to say whether they're a clear improvement over Ramos, Varane and Ronaldo. So while on paper this isn't the strongest Real Madrid ever, it is still absolutely world class in the fact that they have an incredible, indestructible winner's mentality. Those insane games in the Champions League prove that, but even in La Liga they've had form for this kind of thing. Only 5 days after the Chelsea comeback, they were 2-0 down against Sevilla at half time. Can you guess the outcome? Of course they came back and won 3-2, and that was the game that essentially sealed the title. What is it about this team which makes them so ridiculously strong mentally? One reason is that the remnants of the 3 in a row who are still around, even the ones who don't contribute as much on the pitch anymore, provide such an experienced and resilient backbone which rubs off on the younger, newer players. They simply just know how to win. But this isn't just about the players. Someone has to bring the best out of them. So let's talk about the man in the dugout and why he is such a great fit for Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti. Real Madrid are unusual in how they're run. At most clubs, the manager is the star of the show. Take Man City at the moment. The main man is Guardiola. The sporting director, Chiqui Begiristain, is largely quiet, and the players are all part of Guardiola's system without a clear star who dominates the club. At Real Madrid though, it's all about the Galactico players who are far more influential than the manager, who sort of just serves as a middleman between the players and the president who signs them. The manager's job is simply just to get the best out of the players he's given. All of that is to illustrate why Carlo Ancelotti is practically tailor-made for the Real Madrid job. He excels in man management, and one of his core tactical ideas is to essentially just allow his star players to do their own thing and set up the rest of the team around them. This is a principle that he developed as Juventus manager over 20 years ago. Previously, when he managed Parma, he was devoted to a rigid 4-4-2 and valued the tactical system over individual expression. For this reason, he didn't want a flary trequartista who would do his own thing, and he actually refused to sign Roberto Baggio at Parma for this reason. But when he arrived at Juventus, he found Zinedine Zidane and couldn't resist him, so he changed his tactics to be able to get the best out of him, using a 4-3-1-2 with Zidane as the trequartista. Ever since, he has made efforts to bring the best out of his star players and admits he regrets not realising what Baggio could have offered. Now, Ancelotti's star player is Karim Benzema, so his job is to get the best out of the French number 9. He also has Vinicius Jr, who this season under Carlo has blossomed from a pacey dribbler lacking end product into an elite wide forward. So how has Ancelotti been able to bring the best out of these two? Real have almost exclusively played a 4-3-3 this season, with the Kroos, Casemiro, Modric midfield, and Benzema and Vinicius making up 2 of the front 3. The player in the facilitating role has, in most of the important games, been Fede Valverde. While he nominally starts as a right winger, opposite to Vinicius, his role within the side is as more of a 4th midfielder, shuttling up and down the right hand side with his seemingly infinite supply of stamina. He provides defensive cover for Kroos and Modric, who are exceptional in possession but not the most mobile and can be overrun in fast-paced games, while he is also able to offer a threat on the break. So with Valverde compensating, the 2 star attackers are able to express themselves. Vinicius stays high and wide, exempt from defensive responsibilities, and is usually Real Madrid's primary outlet in transition, as he is capable of magic such as his outstanding solo goal in the first leg against City. Benzema has huge freedom in possession. He loves to drop into midfield to receive the ball, and when he does this, Vinicius makes runs from outside to in, from the left beyond the defence where Benzema can pick him out. In this manner, it's actually not dissimilar to Guardiola's Barcelona, where Messi would drop into midfield and David Villa and Pedro, who started wide, would make narrow runs beyond the defence for Messi to play through balls. So perhaps Ancelotti's greatest asset is that this Real Madrid side actually lack a distinct tactical style. Carlo is just able to bring out the best of the players at his disposal without overcomplicating things, as well as his ultra-calm persona and belief that he has in his players, as well as the trust that they have in him. We've established that this isn't a vintage Real Madrid team, but with their unbelievable mental strength and experience, plus the abilities of Carlo Ancelotti to get the best from his squad, they are able to get the job done. But there's one more, very big reason why all season they've been able to win games that they really shouldn't have, and that reason is Karim Benzema. I've tried to mention Real Madrid's number 9 as little as possible so far so I could do this whole section on him, because no one man epitomises this Real Madrid team like Karim Benzema does. He has the incredible ability to do the impossible out of absolutely nowhere, to take this team on his shoulders when they need him the most and win games on his own. Much like how Real Madrid have made some stunning comebacks this season, the Frenchman's career comeback in the last few years has been remarkable. That's not to say that he was ever bad, but he lost a few of his peak years to his role simply being just to service Ronaldo, and after the 17-18 season, where he managed just 5 league goals, many thought his time was up. But since Ronaldo's departure, he has been handed the keys and took the opportunity with both hands. He went from being the underappreciated cog in the system to being the system. His goal in the first leg against City is the perfect encapsulation of his ability to produce the goods for his side out of nothing. At the time, City were 2-0 up and it could have been more. Ferland Mendy put in a pretty unthreatening cross from deep. The ball arrived knee-high and behind Benzema, who had Zinchenko between himself and the goal. However, Benzema, not even looking at the goal, was able to take it on the volley with his weak foot, wrap it around Zinchenko and squeeze it past Ederson. One moment of magic, and just like that, the entire momentum of the game changed. It's an incredibly simplistic analysis, but along with the other factors, maybe the biggest reason why Real Madrid are able to constantly get the results without seeming like an amazing team is that they have a player like Benzema who is simply on a level above any of his opponents. No matter how well you play against Real Madrid, no matter how many goals you are ahead, a Benzema goal could always be just a second away, and when it comes, that's when everything else comes together. The experience, the winning mentality, Carlo's calm motivation, the Bernabeu atmosphere. All it takes is one Benzema bit of magic and Real Madrid become an unstoppable force.